And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are tuned into, I'll tell you what, a great show, a great evening. Life with Shenita. Shenita is out enjoying a much needed and well deserved break. So, my name is Andrew Snorton. I'm serving as our guest host for tonight. Just as a couple of quick reminders, as we already have a couple of our guests with us. Number one, make sure each and every Thursday, as we go ahead and put this on here, each and every Thursday at 7 p.m., you want to make sure to check out Life with Shenita. Is your house in order? As another reminder, make sure that in regards to any questions that you have, make sure to direct them directly to Ms. Shenita at scottshenita@aol.com. And also remember the great resources she has with her books. Is Your House in Order? Again, that is her debut. Is Your House in Order? And you also want to make sure to pick up a copy of Abiding Love. And both of these are available on Amazon. So we're going to make sure to get those up and running and showing. So again, you see the tickers running. Make sure you're jotting that information down. So the focus of tonight's show is on the theme of elevate. And elevate can mean totally different things to different people. Elevate could be getting out your bed in the morning, like real talk, because we all kind of struggle on a couple of things. Elevation, but most important, elevation, elevate your mind, elevate your approaches. So we're so excited to have two guests that are joining us right now, and we'll have a third guest jumping in at some point, but we're talking about elevation, and especially to those of you that are in a committed relationship, marriage, or I'll say pre-marriage, or thinking about marriage, or any committed relationship. The people that you're going to hear from are going to provide some great resources, information, all that, and then some. So I'm so excited to have both Paula Myrick and Ms. Alethea Bonello join us. First off, Paula and Alethea, how are you both doing this evening?
Doing well. Thank you so much for asking.
Great. Thanks for having us.
Great. So we're going to start, Paula, we're going to start with you. Paula, give a little bit of our audience, a little bit of background, where you're based out of, and a little bit of the professional moving parts that you have.
Well, my name's Paula Myrick. As all of you know, I am the founder of Refresher Community, Inc. We're a nonprofit and we are stationed in Stockbridge, Georgia, but we serve the metro area. And our focus is on women and helping them to navigate at intersections in their life and create refreshing moments in a safe environment and build community. I work professionally as a grant administrator with a Supreme Court, and we work with children and making sure that attorneys and judges are trained. And so I'm all in the circle of family. I'm also in the faith community as a minister. So those are my background points.
And Paula, thank you for taking time to give us a point of reference, and thank you for the great work that you're already doing. Alethea, we're going to go ahead and pivot to you. Give our viewers a little bit about where you're based out of and some of your professional moving parts.
Sure. Good evening to everyone. My name is Alethea Bonello. I have had a lot of professional moving parts. Andrew, formerly, I worked for a social justice organization, the NAACP, as a regional director for the Southeast region. And now currently I am the office manager for a psychological practice counseling services and wellness center here in the Metro Atlanta area. So I'm excited to be a part of this with my sister friend, Paula Myrick, and what she's doing with the Refresher community in uplifting women, because we know women are the heart of a relationship in a family. And when they are uplifted, the family is uplifted.
Wow. If you could, please say that one more time for the people in the back who might not have heard you clearly.
The woman is the heart of the family and the community. And so when the woman is uplifted, the family is uplifted. The husband is taken care of better, the partners feels a lot better, and the children have a better experience. So we want to make sure that the women are refreshed, renewed, revived, so that they can go back into their family and their community better than before.
Well, awesome. And even in that opening statement, please believe I took out my pen, I got my notepad, because look at here, this is all about learning and sharing and exchanging. Before even getting to the point of creating a class, walk through with us, I'll say, a little bit about the process. So here you have all these great professional moving parts, all these great community moving parts, but basically, how did you get here? How do we get here? So walk through that with us.
Really, Andrew, let me tell you, I just believe it's a divine moment, an intersection where, your destiny meets purpose. And so, Refresher Community, we were faithful over the items that were shared with us for women. We created moments of refreshing. We were giving clothing out in the community, and we were creating these moments. And when the opportunity arose for us to further expand our reach and further heighten the awareness of women's refreshing in their families. Because when a woman is refreshed, she can go back to her family, as Alethea said, she can go back to her family and she could be refreshed and be renewed if she has a healthy relationship. So when this came about, at a drop of a hat, I just said, I am going to go for it. And my team, they were around me, they rallied around me and said, go for it. And so when we did, we were walked through the process, and we became a part of this bigger process. The Elevate curriculum had already been issued in our northern Georgia counties, and they were touching families' lives in northern Georgia. And when they wanted to expand it into the southern part of the state, I said, we need this. A lot of times the Bible says this, that my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. And there's so much knowledge out there, but a lot of times we don't reach out and get it. So Refresher Community, because we want to be a hub and a resource for community and women's wellness, that's how it came about. We just did it by faith, and it came through. So that's how it came.
And people have to understand, it's not only just preparation and doing your research, but sometimes you have to take that leap of faith and that step of faith. Alethea, what would you like to add to the conversation of how did it, when you think about all the professional moving parts, how did we get here in regards to now that next step of creating this class?
Oh, I think it's exciting. Paula reached out to me because of my knowledge of facilitating in organizations and with people. And I love people. I love to see people heal, whole, and complete. That is my prayer. That is what I operate, and that's my purpose. And so when it was an opportunity to speak specifically about relationships, we oftentimes think about romantic relationships, but this goes even further, because so some of us, there's a divine relationship that needs to be in alignment. Then there needs to be a relationship with ourselves. And then when we understand that relationship and how much we have to love on ourselves, then we can relate or understand another person. And so as we go further into relating and relationship, we go through these different levels. And then now to be able to do what I love, to do it with couples, that is so essential. Because for us, of course, we want to invite all families, but in particular for me personally, the Black family needs an opportunity to gain knowledge, to be strengthened and encouraged. Because oftentimes in the past, the media has portrayed the single mother, that the father wasn't present, that Black marriages aren't vibrant and aren't taking place in our community. So here we have the tools to be able to help them. If they're in a sinking ship, we can help them plug the hole and strengthen it and turn the boat around, that they can continue to see things a little bit differently and hopefully even more positively to help them down the journey called relationship and marriage.
And I'm glad.
And Andrew, I wanted to add to that point. It's about investment. And sometimes, we don't know that we can make investments that are not necessarily monetarily, but investments in your relationship. The outcomes are far reaching when we make the investment and the commitment. A lot of times we leave relationships because we don't know that it's just an investment that we need to make it better. And we end up going in this cycle and recreating another relationship and trying to make it work, when simply if we just stopped and made an investment, it could be better and long lasting. So that's one of our
And in
goals as well.
addition to that, Paula, you're so right, because it also talks about intention, focus, and time. Oftentimes, people don't invest in their relationships in the time. They go through the motions of carrying out the roles they believe is important, but not really communicating to one another about the priorities of what family it means to them. What are the deal breakers? And how do you pour into each other? Oftentimes in relationships, we give to the other person what we like, what we love, not recognizing that doesn't fill their boat, that doesn't fill
Yeah.
their cup. Instead of communicating with them that, what do you need? And even
Yes.
in that discussion of focusing your attention and not on yourself, but the other person, that if
Mhm.
you to be able to dialogue and reciprocate time and attention and love, then you'll be
Mm.
able to heal that relationship, as simple as that. So that
That's good.
intention of focusing on the relationship, a lot of times we think the importance is take care of the kids, but the kids are going to grow up and leave. And what are you going to have after that? So it's so important to be intentional, to set up those date nights, and to be able to invest the time to be able to talk about the relationship to help it grow. Andrew, you're muted.
Hey, there we go. See, I was so captivated, had me just hitting every button on here. But I was about
Okay.
to say, I'm glad you walked through that. So before we bring in our next guest, I'm glad that you talked about the spiritual and then the self and then growing from the self into others. And the key things I keep hearing are tools, toolboxes, resources, investment. And like they say, this isn't for the weak-hearted or the faint-hearted. It is an investment. But if you're willing to make the investment to put things in place where people can be as successful as possible. So on that note, we're going to bring in Ms. Nika Scott. So let me see if I can go ahead and hit this properly. Let's give it a try. And she's going to share a little bit about her experience. Hey, good evening, Ms. Scott. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing fantastic. How are you guys doing?
Hey,
Great.
doing great. And I tell you, you've got great timing. I know you're doing 50, 1100 things, but we just, no, seriously, you are, but we just
How you
finished
guys doing? Fantastic.
doing great. So, Miss Scott, while we've got you, we already kind of introduced like our professional lenses and some of the themes and concepts that this class is going to focus on. Could you do our viewers a favor? Let us know where you're based out of, the professional lens that you're operating out of, and what thematically are some things that led to the creation of this particular class.
Yeah, so I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, actually. And for me, I am a wifey life coach. So I've seen where, women have not looked at themselves as being the issue. I know for me, being married almost 12 years, I had to really sit back and look at myself and say, okay, what am I contributing to the issues that are going on in my marriage? And not just pointing the finger at my husband to say, it's you that needs to change. It's you that needs to adjust or what have you. I had to look at myself and say, okay, Nika, what are you contributing? How can you change? What adjustments can you make in the contribution of your marriage? And so for me, it came more from a self-evaluation lens, because it's easy to blame the other person. It's easy to say, no, it's you. Like, you have the problem. Like, I'm good. It's you. But what I've learned is it's not about who needs to change, but it's about who's willing to make the change. And oftentimes it's very hard for people to look at themselves as the person that needs to change, or just the person who's willing to change. So for me, that's where I like to come, with the wives and saying, okay, well, what's in your toolbox? How are you equipped to make the changes? What mindset shifts do you need to make, in order to have the relationship, the marriage that you want to have? What are you willing to do? And that's how I come. I don't come, okay, well, what's the issue? Okay, no. What are you willing to do? Because that's the bottom line. And if you're not willing to do anything, then you cannot expect anything to change. But if you're willing to do something, then you can expect everything to change. So for me, that's the lens that I come from when it comes to coaching, when it comes to elevating in your marriage. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to be the person to pull the lever, to, you know, to do the cranking, to get things going. And you have to be okay with that. Like, you have to set your ego aside and say, okay, this is the end result that I want. In order to make that happen, what am I willing to do? So classes like this are essential. You know, classes like this are vital, you know, to the success of your marriage. You know, it really is. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has to be willing to do the work. And what I tell wives, sometimes you and your husband may not be willing to do the work at the same time, but somebody has to be willing to keep the momentum going. Even if sometimes, honey, you got to drag the other person. I know my husband had to drag me sometimes. You know, you just have to be willing to go along. Wow. You know, so that's what I've learned, that it's not always equal. It's just not always equal. Like, we think it should be equal, but sometimes it's just not. And that's the real. So I think that classes like this and people making the investment in themselves and in their marriages, it's vital to the success, you know, and not just the success, but it's something that I call marriage maintenance. It's a maintenance plan that you have to have in place to keep your marriage successful, to keep it sustained. I always like to give the analogy of a car. What do you think will happen if you don't put gas in your car? What do you think will happen if you don't change the oil, if you don't rotate the tires, if you don't, you know, fill the windshield wiper fluid? You know what I mean? So there is maintenance that is required. So classes like this is a part of the maintenance, and it should be a part of the maintenance plan. So for me, I love it. I think it's amazing. I think it's necessary, especially for people that look like us. That's the first and foremost thing. So for me, I think that is something that every couple should invest in doing for their marriage, and look at it as an investment. It's not something that's just gonna, you know, it's like, oh, this is going to take up my time. Okay, this isn't going to be good because we're in a bad place or what have you. Look at it as an investment. And so that's what I, you know, tell my wives. And, you know, that's what I encourage them to do. Like, make the necessary investment in your marriage. You've already committed to the time. Like, why not do everything else that's necessary, you know, to keep things going? So I can talk about this all day. Like, this is my jam.
I love it.
So I'm just going to say that there. I hope I answered the question that was asked of me. But yeah, I hope that answered the question. Did it?
I'm going to say this honestly, Nika, and I'm glad you shared that, because what you did was reinforce some of the early themes that we spoke about before you hopped on. I'm glad you restated the key words of investment, because that's part of the, you know, how we got here. Part of it is, again, when we talk about resources and tools for your toolbox, you did bring those up because, like you said, whether it's the communication or who brings the energy or who does this, who does that. And another underlying thing, which everybody touched base on, is perspective. And again, like everyone said, you have to understand that marriage or committed relationship, whatever I'll say, quote, relationship of that type, that's part of what comes with it. And I think you hear it, but until you get in it, it's different from, I know how to cross the street versus I really have to look both ways, otherwise I'm going to get hit. So it's great that you stress that. Now, Nika, while you are with us, and this might help in regards to starting to dig a little bit deeper into the class, we know that it's about best practices, and this is something that all of our guests are going to touch base on, but really taking, quote, a pragmatic and scientific approach and really looking at best practices. While we have you, can you speak to the importance of identifying these best practices and, for lack of a better term, practicing them and building them as habit?
Oh yeah, I know for me, it's affirmations. It's affirmations. It's affirming what you want to see in your marriage. It's affirming what you want to see in yourself, even though sometimes the things that you are affirming are not evident. I know for me, when we were going through, you know, our trying time in our marriage, I reminded myself that I love myself and my husband unconditionally. and we have a happy, healthy marriage. Even though when we were in that tumultuous time, that wasn't evident. You know what I'm saying? But I stuck to that. I spoke to the things that I wanted to see happen and change in my marriage. And that's where I put my focus. That's where I put my mouth. That's where I put my energy into building what I wanted to see. I even Googled pictures of what a happy, healthy marriage looked like, or just with a husband kissing his wife on the forehead. I just love that. I think that is the picture of intimacy, of connection, right? Of trust, protection, all of that. And I literally put it on my phone. So every time I went to open my phone, send a text to somebody or answer the phone, whatever, I saw that image. So not only was I saying what I wanted to see, but I kept what I wanted to see before my eyes. And I practiced that. I made it a practice to speak to what I wanted to see. Because we all can talk about our problems. We can talk about our problems and what's not going right all day long. But I found that that was an energy suck, that nothing changed. If I didn't change what I was saying, what I saw didn't change. So I had to get in my mind, okay, Nika, if what you're seeing is what you're getting, then change what you're saying. So what you're seeing will also change, right? And so I was like, oh, okay. So I started to put that into practice. I still practice that. Even though my marriage is in a great place right now, I still practice that because it has been a part of my marriage maintenance plan to only speak the things that I want to see in my marriage. And another thing, I practice doing intimacy sessions with my husband. So we do something called hug therapy where we hug for 10 seconds. I could be pissed at him. I'm talking about the highest level, all right, of pistivity. Okay, that's me. I'm there. But it's like when we hug and we connect, all of that goes away, right? His energy starts to match my energy. His heartbeat starts to match my heartbeat. And you can't go away from that, man. You know what I'm saying? So we put these little, and it's so small, it's nothing big, nothing that you have to go to, you don't have to go to an encyclopedia, Google, YouTube, or none of that. It's practical human connection things that we put into practice, the things that feel good, feel natural. When someone hugs you, it just makes you feel safe. It makes you feel protected, right? So when you put those things into practice in your marriage, then guess what? You will see change. You will see the intimacy level rising up. You won't be mad. Me, I could hold a grudge, honey. Okay. I could hold a grudge for weeks. I'm not talking to you. We can pass in the hallway. I will act like I don't know you. Okay. I'm grown, but I'm just saying, but you can't do that and expect for things to stay, expect for things to get better. So you have to be willing to practice those things, right? Even when you're not seeing it, but to stay consistent with doing that. I consistently say, I love myself and my husband unconditionally, and we have a happy, healthy marriage. Like that's the staple affirmation that I use. And my desire is only for my husband. His desire is only for me. It's things like that I have trained myself to say and believe and embody. And then outside of that, it's the intimate actions. Like even if I'm mad at him, I may still rub his bald head, or I might still, caress his arm or something like that. Just that touch to keep us together, even though we've disagreed. It doesn't mean that we throw the whole marriage away. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, this is a disagreement. Like, let's work through this. Yeah, I'm a little mad, but I like how you rub my neck though. So I'm just gonna, just lean into it. You know what I mean? So for me, those are some best practices that you can incorporate into your marriage, and keep your family out of your business. That's another best practice that I will also say, because once you forgive him or her and you guys have moved past whatever issue you had, the family is not so forgiving. You know what I'm saying? The family is not so forgiving. So for you wives or husbands, find you a confidant, find you someone that you can express your challenges to, and that is a neutral party and respects both you and your husband, right, as a couple, and your whatever your issue is safe with them. And that is the person where you do your heart dump, is what I call it. And when you walk away from that, it's safe, and they're going to give you wise counsel, wise instruction on how to proceed, because they value you and your husband as a unit and individuals. So those are the two things that I would definitely say as best practices. Oh, and a third one, this is a bonus. Keep your business off of social media. Like, don't go on social media, dumping your business or anything like that, or saying those little side things. Y'all know how we dress it up, where it's like, it's really not me, but it's me. We know it's you. So find you a confidant, a person to, you can trust with your issues or what have you. And then, go from there. So those are the three, things that I would definitely say as far as when it comes to maintenance or as best practices for marriage.
Wow. And you gave us a lot right there. And I'm going to pivot back to Alethea, because we know with this upcoming class, as you see the website info on there, part of it is giving and providing best practices that are grounded not only in just science, but just to a degree, just things that we know successful couples do. What's one little nugget or preview? Of course, we want people to go to the class, but what's one little nugget or preview that you want to provide people that lets you know these are the types of things that we're going to cover, and these are the things we're going to build upon to help you have a stronger foundation?
Well, thanks, Andrew. I think we're going to be able to utilize icebreakers within our conversations. And one icebreaker, we'll talk about communication. So you'll get a set of instructions. One partner will have the set of instructions, and they will have to communicate it without using words to the other partner. And so we're going to talk about verbal cues, nonverbal cues. How do you communicate without using words? And that's always a very interesting result in seeing that. And then how to understand that your partner can be communicating with you and you don't even know it, because you've not tapped into and tuned into how they communicate. Some people are very verbal, some people show. And so that's going to be a really interesting thing. And as many people have heard about Gary Chapman and the 5 love languages, and really communicating about what those love languages are and what's important to us, as well as how we can be assured that we can tap into what's important to our partner.
Wow. So that would definitely be interesting, because we're so used to verbal and we hear nonverbals, and there's some nonverbals that we recognize. And there's some, I'll tell you what, probably a turtle with 3 legs can probably recognize it better than we can. Paula, we're going to go ahead and pivot to you, because again, just giving people a little bit of a snippet of the types of scientific approaches, pragmatic approaches, best practices, duplicating what successful couples do. Share with us that preview or that little nugget that people can build upon when they register for the class.
Well, this class is built upon the physical science. They've watched couples, they've studied families, and come up with some best practices. And this comes from the National Extension Relationship Marriage and Education model. And so we're going to use some of those best practices, practicing how you breathe, how you're feeling at different moments. We're going to take moments during the sessions to, when we're in a heated conversation, something gets elevated, to stop and to breathe, to take a moment. And they will have workbooks where they'll be able to write down how they're feeling right there. And we're asking each of the couples, although you're together, not to share your books, so you can go back and have some private feelings as you take this journey. It's about understanding and valuing, being enlightened. Many people will discover that they really don't know their partner. We're going to be reintroduced to one another. And so I think utilizing the science of how humans behave and using some practical skills, and just going into these sessions, how do you value? I have recently had to evaluate, am I valuing my husband as my life has gotten busier and things have been added and I've become more successful at the things I envisioned? Am I still taking the time to value my husband? So it's going to be a lot of practical things that's going to allow us to really engage and elevate our relationship. It's an investment. I want my relationship to be elevated. I don't want it to be at the same place. And so it's just going to utilize these things that have been studied on how humans behave and how we interact, that's going to create healthy relationships.
And again, it's great that you're taking bits and pieces of what you're doing, we'll say within your marriage, what you're doing within your professional lenses, how this is parlaying into the class. And again, giving people a preview. These are the takeaways we want you to have, because the end game is about you knowing that you're capable of being successful, practicing and incorporating these things. So that way success isn't just a word, it really is a daily destination that you're getting to and what have you. So I'm glad all of you shared that. So we've got some of the themes, we've got some of the concepts, we've got a little bit of the preview. Let's walk through a few of the particulars with the course. And even though we've got the website listed and the start date, walk through with our viewers a little bit about the length of the course, the length of each session, again, reminding people of the themes that are going to be covered, how it aligns with all these best practices that you shared. So let's go ahead and start this time around. Let's go ahead and start with Alethea, my apologies, to go ahead and share some of those things with us.
Sure. So we're asking couples to commit 12 hours of their time over the course of several weeks. Each of the sessions will be 90-minute sessions. So we want you to consider this to be date night, a little R&R and RX for your relationship, to come together with other couples and to be able to get these tools in mind. So we're asking them that both partners must participate in each of the sessions. And there's some prizes and gifts and incentives in store as well. And when you register, you'll find out about those. So the themes that we'll be talking about right now, our sessions will be virtual. So you will do this in the comfort of your own home. Just have to log on and be able to participate and engage over the video platform. So some of the themes that we'll be talking about is empower yourself. As Mama used to say, you can't prime the pump without having a little water in there yourself. So making sure that you take care of yourself within the relationship to be able to give to your partner as well. Another area is, as Paula mentioned, being enlightened about some things that you may not have been aware of as to what needs to take place in a relationship. We know that each partner comes from very different sets of experiences, lived experiences, seeing things in their childhood, how their parents raised them. And so being able to kind of peel back those layers and discuss how that impacts the relationship that they're in, along with how the relationships of their family members impacts the relationship as well. Another one is tame. We have to learn how to fight fairly. So many people want to make sure that they are right and their point gets to be heard, but we have to look at it in the perspective and priority of the relationship between the two partners, and also if there are children involved. What are the consequences when we don't fight fair? And so we want to talk about those things. Also, when you fight, do you fight when you're angry, or do you take a moment to let the steam blow off, to come up with some logical experiences and to understand, are you arguing about the issue at hand, or were you triggered with something that happened in the past that affected you? So we're going to be talking about those components within tame. And engage. Although it's two of you against the world, as people tell you, and you have your marriage and you have to go it alone with each other, it's important to be connected. It's important to consider having a couple that is older than you, who has been married longer than you, to be a mentor to you. Create your power team or your power family or network to be able to help strengthen you and encourage you in what you're going through in terms of your marriage. And then to be educated, to be renewed. There's nothing like going out with a bunch of like-minded people, couples. It's interesting how singles can give couple advice, huh? Or those who are married. And so it's important to be around people, married couples, and to just have a great time. No children, no other stressors, but to create your own tribe, your community that will help you stay engaged and encourage you when those times are hard. So those are just some of the themes that we'll be talking about. And of course, we want you to attach. Intimacy, a lot of people consider from the physical aspect, but we want you to be able to be connected, not only physically, but intellectually, mentally, emotionally, in so many areas that when things feel like they're falling apart, you still have that glue that keeps you connected together. Andrew.
I tell you what, that in and of itself, I'll put it like this. If there are committed couples out there, if what you heard leading up to this didn't resonate, I'm sure regardless of where you were, it's like you had to kind of pause. You know how you just have to be still and just take it all in? Like that was definitely one of those moments indeed. And I'm glad you shared and put the emphasis on this is where we're going with this class. Paula, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to contribute, but through the lens of not only, the time commitment, but also understand that this is really a community investment. So walk through that grant component so people understand, yes, it's professionals, this and that, but this is a response to a community need. So walk through those items with us, Paula. Oops, I'm sorry. Let's get
You're
you
muted.
Sorry. As I said before, the refresher is all about encouraging women to be strengthened in a safe community, to know that they have navigational points where they can be safe to grow and become. And so this grant is affording us the opportunity to pour into the lives of these women. It's funded through the Department of Children Family Services. And so they want families to be well, because when families are well, children are well, and we have safer communities. There's less crime. Even health wise, when we have healthy relationships, I think that it helps us in our health, how we are relating to the health system, healthcare system. So it's all interrelated. These funds are specifically for families to be well. And so the grant component is that as we allow others to invest in us, we're able to reinvest into the community. We're going to be able to utilize funds to create hubs of support. We're going to be able to utilize our funds to therefore go back, turn around, and support single moms. So we will utilize the funds that we receive to specifically target single moms and women who are caregivers. So that is one of the resources that, utilizing the funds that we receive from maintaining this project, we'll be able to therefore circulate refreshing to other women. So it all works together. The grant component that we have to meet, we have a threshold that we have to actually have 12 successful couples to go through this program. And we know that we can do it. We know that there are 12 couples that can take 12 hours of their time to invest in a healthier relationship. So it will help us as a nonprofit, a faith-based nonprofit in the community, to begin to expose ourselves for other programs and projects. And I know sometimes they say that we can't work together, but we can work together. We can support one another. And the simple fact that Shenita is a part of our program, and she's given us this space to do something we've never done. There are some points of uncertainty because we've never done this before, but we're up for the task. I have some wonderful facilitators, as you can hear Arlethea tonight, how well she's able to navigate conversation. She's going to be a great facilitator. We have Shenita, and if you've ever tuned into this class, you know that she is wonderful in her interpersonal skills, and her community resources is going to be great for our team. And then we have Dr. Latrice Rollins and her husband, Sean Rollins. She is a professor at Morehouse University, and she is a part of our team. We have some great facilitators that are going to bring different components to the table that will help couples to feel safe, to feel informed, to feel like they can do this, that they can elevate their relationship. So with regards to the grant, we really want couples to just take a moment to show, if you're interested, to go to elevatecouplesgeorgia.com and you'll need to look for Henry County because that's where we're based, and you'll see Refresher Community. Just click that link and you'll be connected to this program and begin the process of joining our sessions that begin on May 16th.
And again, it's great that you said before, when people need to understand, when you're getting a grant, that is earmarked for what? A community-based nonprofit. And you think about any nonprofit, it's about what? Identifying areas of concern and putting more hands-on resources, strategies, etc. So, and it also ties in with what everybody said before. It's an investment. So you're not only investing in just you as an individual, you as a couple, but like you said, it's family investment and ultimately it's community building. So it's great that people or entities are recognizing the community component. And this is about ultimately, like you said before, building stronger unions, building stronger families, and definitely think about it. You see where we're connecting the dots. You have a stronger union and a stronger family. You have what? A stronger community. And I'm going to pivot to Nika. And as other people said, yes, to a degree, it's going in uncharted waters because this is, quote, new, but you're still building on your previous expertise, etc. I'm going to ask this question of each of you. What is one takeaway that you hope that people who register for the class get? And what's one takeaway for you, especially if there's some new information that's like, hey, I didn't know this. This can help me. So we'll start with Nika.
So for me, what I would like for couples to take away from this is the fact that marriage is a journey and marriage has its seasons. You know, sometimes it's very, very good. Sometimes it's very, very challenging. But what I want them to take away from this is if I make the commitment, if I make the necessary sacrifices, that guess what? Summer is coming. Spring is coming. It may be fall right now. It may be winter right now, but the seasons change. And as long as I am equipped, as long as I show up and do my own work, that's the key thing. You have to be willing to do your own work. As long as I'm willing to do that, and as long as I'm willing to show up, then guess what? Things will get better, you know, and sometimes we need that extra outside help. Sometimes we need to connect with other couples to see, oh, okay, yeah, this is normal. You know, exactly what we're going through. Other people have gone through this, and guess what? They've come out on the other side. So I would just want them to know, you know what, as long as I show up, as long as I keep a positive attitude, as long as I keep, you know, pressing forward and making my marriage, my relationship, what I know that it can be, then guess what? The tide will turn, you know, our spring will be here, you know, before we know it, you know. So I would want couples to take that away. And as long as we keep our focus on us, and not just on me as an individual, but on us, then things will get better. You know, the communication components that you ladies was talking about. I just did a masterclass on communication, and it's so funny how nonverbal communication gets overlooked. You know, so I think that if couples really take in what's being presented to them, then the success of their marriage is inevitable, because there's no way you can sit where good information is being poured in and you're willing to do the work. You're just needing the necessary tools. And once you make a commitment to putting those tools into practice, because I like to say knowledge is only power when it's applied. You can have the knowledge, but if you're not applying it, then you don't have any power. But if you have the knowledge and you're applying the knowledge that you've learned, then guess what? You guys become a power couple. You have a power marriage. You know what I'm saying? And it works for your good. But you can have the knowledge and the tools, but if you don't use them, then it benefits you nothing. You know what I mean? So I just want them to take away this experience as being more tools in their toolbox that they have, you know, being equipped for when those trouble time come, because that's the thing. People want to try to be equipped, you know, when the snowstorm is already in effect. if you don't have a snow blower, if you don't have a scraper, if you don't have the chain for your tires, if you don't have the necessary things that you need for when those storms come or when those challenging times come, then guess what? You feel defeated because you don't have any tools in your toolbox to draw from. So that's what I would want couples to get from this class. I want them to look at it as, we're going to get equipped. We're going to prepare for the time that lies ahead, because trouble is inevitable. Trying times is inevitable for everybody. But the difference is if you are equipped and how equipped you are, and then applying what you've learned to the situations. So that's what I would want couples to get out of this. Like, we're going to get equipped, getting what we need. It may not be for right now, but it could be for a time that's in the very near future. And guess what? We're going to win because we're equipped. So that's what I would want couples to get out of, making the necessary commitment to seeing this class all the way through, not just coming and saying, okay, this is not for us, this isn't going to work, but just being consistently, committed to showing up long past the time that you said, oh yeah, this looks great, and jumping in there, but staying committed to the process. So that's what I would want couples, to get out of attending this class. Like, you have to be committed to the process, even during the class and, after the class as well. So commitment is what I would definitely also want couples to get out of attending the class.
Those are awesome words of insight and things along those lines. And if people are paying attention, especially on the bottom, please make sure this might be the first time you are connecting with these people, but we don't want it to be the last. We're going to go ahead and pivot to Alethea. And again, what's a takeaway that you hope that people who register for the class are able to put in their hip pocket, basically?
Well, in the great words of philosopher DJ Khaled, to paraphrase, all we do is win, 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 no matter what. And so I want to encourage couples that they can win as long as they have the tools, as Nika said, and apply it. They are supported. We got major key alerts that we have the keys to unlock what is going on in their relationship and to be able to elevate it from where they are to where they can be. If they're willing to commit to the process, if they're willing to go ahead and utilize the information and be excited that there is a possibility of a successful relationship, a successful marriage that will turn into being successful in life. So we just want them to win.
I tell you what, that is awesome right there. Positive takeaways. And again, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure you're paying attention to the ticker. Like we said before, we're making it a habit. This might be the first time you're connecting with everybody, but we don't want it to be the last. Paula, we're going to ask you, what is one key takeaway that you want to make sure that people who register for this class, again, are able to put in their hip pocket, their backpack, their drawstring, under the top of their hat? What's one key thing that you hope that people take away from this? Unmute.
All right. Again, I would love for everyone to take from this class that they are worth it. Nothing beats a failure but a try. And so many times we miss out on what could be because we are so fearful of taking the next step. So I want to encourage every woman, every man to take the next step. All is not lost. I'm reminded, I'm using a faith analogy of the woman who had just a little bit of oil. And that was enough oil when she used it the proper way to be a blessing to her entire family and to set her up for life. And I'm reminded of the little boy who had 2 fish and 5 loaves. That's all he had. But he gave it away and it was able to be multiplied. And so when we take this time to invest the little that you may just say, I don't have a lot of love. I don't feel the same way I used to feel, but you have a little bit left. And I am convinced that God uses man, he uses science, he uses education. God will use that little bit you have. When you put it out there in faith, he will expand it and it will be a blessing to you Your family is worth it. You are worth it. You are worth it. You got into this relationship because you wanted it to work. You wanted it to be well. You wanted it to have a happy ending. But I've heard the saying, marriage may uh, be made down here, but may be made in heaven, but it's worked down here. And so I just want to say that you're worth it. When I look at my own husband, there were many moments that we could have given up. We were a blended family, and our children faced many things where we could have said, "Oh, I don't want to take on another person's weight." But the fact that we hung in there and we've learned how to communicate and value one another, I wouldn't change it for the world. So I want others to experience what I have, the value of the long haul. So that's exactly what I want them to take away from this class.
Wow. I tell you what, some great takeaways from everybody. And as we get ready to gradually wind down, just a couple of real quick notes. Number one, it's been a pleasure sitting in as the guest host for today. I want to thank Shenita for that opportunity, and thank all three of you for coming on, for sharing what you're doing within your own, we'll say, universes, but now coming together to help make sure that, again, just as it says in the class, elevate couples. Just a couple of other real quick reminders. Remember, tonight's theme is about elevate. Hopefully, with what you've heard tonight from everybody, it's giving you things to think about, to pause, to ask yourself again, do you understand the investment that you are making? And what are additional tools and resources that are out there that have been shown to help others? So does it mean you have to use every little tool? Not exactly. But knowing that you've got that resource base and that reference base, as the old saying goes, before you have to cross the rough side of the mountain, you make sure you have your shoes, you have your little pickaxe and things along those lines so you can get there. As a couple of quick reminders, not only with tonight's show, but with every edition of this show, we want you to make sure that you like and share this broadcast. Again, this is what takes place each and every Thursday at 7 p.m. And not only to engage with great guests like we've had tonight, but there are other guests around the corner and around the bend. So we want you, whether this is your first time, don't let it be your last time. And again, make sure to go ahead and share the resources that have been provided for you. Couple of real quick things for tonight. If you have any questions about tonight's show, please make sure to direct them to our host. Again, as you're paying attention to the ticker, you see the contact email for our host, Shenita. So if you have a question about tonight's show or any show, please make sure to direct them there. Again, reminder, to add to your reading library, two great resources from our host is Your House in Order and Abiding Love. You can be purchased on Amazon, so we know how that works. Go ahead and go there. As the saying goes, cop a copy or two, give somebody a copy or two. And again, when we look at the larger focus of Life with Shenita, LLC, the key thing is helping people overcome life's challenges and encouraging them to live a vibrant life. And I tell you what, if you picked up on the topics covered tonight, the energy that all of our guests brought, that totally aligns with the mission and purpose of this show and what is done here. And again, quick reminder, each and every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And when it stays out there, go ahead and click share. Last but not least, again, make sure to join us next week. Well, actually join the actual host, but make sure to join us next week for some great resources that are shared and exchanged. This is what goes on here. This is what is done. And this is what we're going to continue to do. Moving on out, moving on up, and moving on out. And we want to go ahead and close out with this. And I'm going to go ahead and put this back up here as we close out. Please make sure that you register for the class. Or even if you think this class is not for you, you know somebody that's going to help. Please make sure to go to elevatecouplesgeorgia.com. You have a little bit of time, but just like April snuck up on us, May might sneak up us on a little bit sooner. So please make sure to not only mark your calendars for May 16th, but go ahead and visit the website. Go ahead and register. And again, even if you think it's not a fit for you, we know that it can be a fit for somebody else. And in closing, if I can make sure to go ahead and get this correctly, we are going to make sure. And as the closing words, and you've heard not only best practices, but you've also heard the incorporation of faith. And as all of our guests can attest, your faith is going to be the cornerstone. It's going to be the bedrock on which you build upon. So remember, not only does the host extend her love, as we say right here in the bottom, remember, I love you, but God loves you more. Guess what? That's a sentiment that's shared by everybody on here, from guest to guest host, previous guests, things along those lines. So as we get ready to conclude, we want to thank each and every guest on here tonight for sharing their time, their talents, their expertise, for showing what happens where they say where two or more are gathered, and combining for a great cause, a great purpose, which again stems from the individual to the couple, to the family, and ultimately the community. So I thank each and every one of you. Our viewers thank you. And of course, our host thanks you, who will be back right here in the hot seat, for lack of a better term, next week. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, please continue to be blessed. Take good care, continued well wishes, and encouragement. And again, tonight was about elevating what goes on in here so you can build a stronger foundation here. All of you continue to take very good care. Continued blessings.
Thank you.